Just as there are few true gods in Sonic's universe, Sonic's world also has very few ancient societies that we're aware of. As far as we know, there are apparently 4 great civilizations as stated by Gerald Robotnik in Sonic Battle. I'm not saying that the ones I'm covering in this video are indeed the true great civilizations he was referring to, but we only really know of 3 that can exist in that context. They are the Ancients, the Babylonians, and the Knuckles clan. As for that 4th civilization, I have a few guesses, but we'll get to that later. For now, I want to take a look at the 3 that we do know about. I used to believe that the Ancients were the lost 4th great civilization Gerald mentions in Sonic Battle, but after receiving this comment on one of my other videos, I began to question my own stance on this. I still believe that they were the ones who created Emerald, but that doesn't mean that they're the 4th great civilization. They're the only ones we know of that straight up created Robot Mecha for fighting purposes. As for if they're the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th great civilization, that doesn't matter. Like I said before, they probably aren't, but it's a cool piece of world building and that's about it. The Ancients' time on Earth is left to ambiguity, with lines and scenes that point you in many different directions as to when exactly they arrived and for how long they were around before they regressed into Chao. You can believe Sonic Lore Posting's theory about the Ancients helping Light Gaia fight Dark Gaia tens of thousands of years ago, or believe that the Ancients were only around for a few years before the Chaos incident of Sonic Adventure 1, as the Elder mentions a shrine being built for the Emeralds, which you can infer is the same shrine Tikal visits in SA1. As for the makeup of the ancient civilization, we don't have much to go on. They're the most technologically advanced of all the ancient civilizations, having access to machinery to build expansive caves, homes, cannons, mecha, entire defensive mechanisms, pyramid-like structures, and pinball machines. They also created an entire cyberspace digital world, a place that can only be accessed through portals scattered around the Starfall Islands that stores the memory of the people who explore these islands. They also kept the Coco as Lucky Charms, but they ended up being vessels of their memories until they could finally pass on in peace. I like that in stark contrast to the other civilizations that we'll be talking about later, the Ancients are decidedly more alien. Even the Babylonians, aliens who I've theorized to possibly be from an entirely different dimension altogether, managed to create an entire city that resembled structures seen in human civilization. I can't help but wonder what the homeworld of the Ancients looked like in comparison to how primitive their homes on the Starfall Islands are. The ancient Babylonians crash-landed on Earth after a malfunction caused by the arcs of the cosmos. The 5 bracelets piloting their spaceship nearly caused a black hole. The arcs continued to float in Earth's orbit before eventually falling towards Earth. Because of this, the Babylonians developed the tradition of wishing upon shooting stars, with the hope of one day returning home. Legend says that they allegedly gave a boy an angel's wing that allowed him to rule the world. As a result, the gods punished the Babylonians by burying the Babylon Garden. The Babylonians eventually lost their knowledge of their culture over time. Only a few artifacts remain. The blue cube allows the user to access various places in Babylon Garden. Babylon Garden was built on top of the spaceship Astral Babylon. The Babylon Garden's architecture takes cues from Eastern European and Middle Eastern countries. The concept of the Babylon Garden itself is inspired by the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Chaos Emeralds were needed to uncover the Babylon Garden, which indicates that the ancient Babylonians at one point had possession of all 7 emeralds, or at least one. Since they were known as thieves, we can speculate that they probably stole the emeralds from the ancients at one point, but I can't say for sure though. The history of the emeralds in accordance to these civilizations is tricky to properly map out. If we knew exactly when the ancients arrived on Earth, I'd give a more accurate guess. The Babylonians, like the ancients, also created their own digital world, a place inside Babylon Garden guarded by Shugohei that switches between heaven, hell, and a weird techno space. It's unknown what exactly these places were used for and why their concept of heaven and hell is very similar to human religions such as Christianity and Islam. The Babylonians also created extreme gear. It was originally once a magic carpet, but the blueprints are modified over time to be used with actual machinery, creating the hoverboards we know today. The Knuckles clan is the 3rd and final known ancient civilization in Sonic. The Knuckles clan is interesting because part of their history is almost a direct result of everything that happened with the ancients. We don't know the actual origins of the Knuckles clan. We know that they originally used the Master Emerald to build their civilization. Before the Chaos incident, they were a matriarchal society. Tikal's grandmother was the leader, and taught Tikal the mantra used to control the emeralds. Because of what we know now, it can be inferred that Tikal's grandmother knew some of the remaining ancients who later either died or became Chow. It's also possible that those that came before her knew and passed their knowledge down to her. The ancients and echidnas probably had a means to translate what the other group was saying, and they also could have possibly helped the Knuckles clan build their society. It would explain why there's an entire casino zone on Angel Island, which also adds to my theory that Angel Island and Westside Island were once part of a Pangea. The Knuckles clan created their own unique civilization. All of what we see here is based on South American places such as Chichen Itza in Mexico, Machu Picchu, Peru, and an ancient Mayan citadel in Guatemala named Tikal. Look up any of these places for a quick search. The inspiration's so obvious. Inside the Lost World stage is a wooden water snake that swims in circular motions in a body of water. It's incredibly impressive that this was made. They also made these movable anti-gravity walls that can be moved at the push of a button. The Knuckles clan doesn't have their own insane technological advancement that's on the level of the ancients and the Babylonians. The civilization and its people seem to be more spiritual based. The snake imagery is heavy in their architecture, as snakes are seen in a ton of godlike imagery in Mesoamerican culture. The civilization relied heavily on the use of the emeralds, and due to them being on Earth, I imagine that technologically advanced resources weren't as readily available to them as it was for the other two alien races. Despite that, the Knuckles clan connects to the other two in various ways. I really like how we can go back and connect things with the ancients. The Knuckles clan possibly had run-ins with the Babylonians at some point as well, as Knuckles can clearly read ancient Babylonian texts as seen in Rider Zero Gravity. I made an entire video about a theory that an old civilization of birds once existed alongside the Echidna tribe on a Pangea. It's possible that whoever raised Knuckles taught him how to read Babylonian text, which has aided him on his own treasure hunting expeditions. It's also obvious to me that the Knuckles clan were also involved with the remaining ancients. The obvious unfortunate trampling of the Chow and Chaos's wrath puts into perspective just how rough the ancients had it since they've been hunted down by the End. The way they met still remains a mystery. I hope we get to see how all three of these civilizations interacted, because I believe there's some loose ends that can be tied up here if there's an attempt to connect all three of them to each other in ways that make sense. Now, as for the fourth mysterious great civilization, I feel like the answer is obviously humanity, right? From their own creation of multiple societies throughout the world, their involvement with aliens, and some being gatekeepers to the shrines that allowed Light Gaia to defend the world against Dark Gaia shouldn't be understated. If you believe the theory that the ancients wrote the Gaia manuscripts, then that would mean that the ancients interacted with humans for a time. None of this is substantiated by anything, by the way, but the ancients really could be the group that ties some aspects of Sonic's lore together. Humanity has just played a significant role in the formation of Sonic's world, and I don't see why they couldn't be this supposed fourth great civilization. It would make sense if that were the case, but that's just my opinion. Who do you guys think is truly the fourth great civilization? Does it matter? What else can we infer about the ancient lore of Sonic's world through looking at these three groups? Let me know in the comments below. I like reading what people have to say about this stuff. While you're here, check out the other Sonic videos on my channel. I'm out. Peace.